Hello friends, welcome back to my channel The Lens India Professional Photography and this series of Mastering Lightroom CC. In this particular video, we will be touching upon one of the new module, that is the print module. And the concept of the print module is almost similar to what we did in the book module or the slideshow module. So the print module is basically the module where we are willing to take the prints of our photographs what we have post-processed. So uh, before we are going to do any print, so again the recommendation is that as we the process what we followed for the book module or the slideshow module, we should try to put those photos into the collection so that it becomes easy for us to go to that particular collection and start the printing process. So now when it comes to printing, just before we jump into the settings or the aspects of the printing, so one thing what I would like to mention over here is that it is said that the photographer is incomplete unless he prints the photograph. So now today being a digital media, we are almost uploading our all the photographs on various digital media platforms like social media, which exist today, and we can really understand the difference that the image what we see on our screens. So we may have different types of screens like our PC screens or maybe laptop screens or maybe our mobile screens. So the image what we see on each screen appears to be a little bit different. And when we take the print of that particular photograph, it is completely different. So usually when we see the image on the screen, so that light what is coming on the image is the transmitted light of the monitor and or the screen, or and when we print, so it is the reflected light what we are seeing from the print. So when we look at this, both the images on the screen as well as on the paper, so they appear to be completely different. So usually as a thumb rule, the difference what we can see is that whatever the brightness, contrast and colors we are looking at the screen will have at least 10 to 15% difference when it appears on the print. So print will appear a little bit 10 to 15% on the darker side than the brightness values or contrast values what we see on the screen. So of course this is the thumb rule, and again this may little bit vary based on the type of printer what we are using. So just this we need to understand when we are going to take the prints. Now, at times, we also basically would like to take the prints of some photographs from our Lightroom directly. Majority of the times, we usually give our photographs to the labs for the printing purposes, because individually at home we may not have the high-end printers to print, and it may not give us the desired quality because our printers might be of the low quality or very you know or maybe a very general purpose printers. So, just but at times we may have to print some small size prints, and that is how that need might occur, and we may have to understand how we should print in the Lightroom. So, without any further ado, now let's jump into the print module. So, once we go to the print module, we see there are two panels again on the left hand side as well as on the right hand side. So on the left hand side you can see that there are various templates what are available in the Lightroom. So we can select the templates what are if we want to print some contact sheets or maybe a single photo on a page, or so different types of templates are available, and it also indicates the size. So this will be useful when we want to use the contact prints as such. Now at the bottom side, we may also see that there is a page setup tab over here. So page setup is when we click on this, it will basically pop up with a window that what printers are connected to your system, and it will show you the details. We may we can set the different types of size of papers what we want to basically use while printing. So usual print setup is available here. So now since I am using the Windows system, so I have only one tab available over here, that is the page setup. So people who might be using the Mac may have one more tab over here, that is the print setup. So that is the difference between the user interface what people may experience between the Mac and the Windows. On the right hand side, you can see that there are again various tabs. I'll just minimize those tabs. So we have the layout tabs, image setting tabs, layout tabs. So I'm sorry that the first tab is the layout style, and then the third is only the layout, then guides, page, and print job. So let's try to explore this one by one. So when we go to the layout style, so we have three different options. So single image or contact sheet, picture package. So when we are going to print multiple pictures as a package as such, then we have custom package. So we can drag and drop the images here and we can select the page layout accordingly. But for this demonstration purpose, I'll just select the single image per page. Then once this is selected, we can go to the image settings. So now image setting, we have again various options available. So one is the zoom to fill. So if your zoom to fill is enabled or the check mark is there, so there is a likelihood that the pixels of your image may get cropped. So we don't want to get our pixels to crop. So usually we should try to disable this. You can understand the difference that when I'm enabling it, see how the pixels are getting cropped and the image is getting zoomed in. So we will lose some pixels when we are cropping the image in this form virtually. So let's avoid using zoom to fill. So because many people may experience that either they print in the Lightroom on their own, or if they are giving their photos to print in the lab, probably this is one of the issue that their images get cropped while printing. So we need to ensure that zoom to fill is disabled. Then the next is rotate to fit. So when I'm disabling this, you will see that this will go into the landscape mode and it will be shown as it is and the size will differ. So it's better to rotate to fit so that your vertical frame as well as the horizontal frames are properly aligned for the printing. The next is repeat one photo per page. So if you want your photos to be repeated on one single page, you can enable this. Otherwise, you can just leave it unchecked. Now, if you want to add the borders to your image, you can just enable this stroke border option. So if you enable this, you can add borders to your images and you can even select the color of the border whatever you want. So if you have something different color in your mind, you can select accordingly and um, finalize the color of the border. So as of now, I'm just going to leave it to the black as such and close it. But if you don't want the border, you just minimize it to the left side, so you won't get any border size. So you'll just get a point two pixel border, so that it will help you in cutting the picture when the print is ready. So this is about the image setting. Then the next third tab is about the layout. So now this layout is that you will see that when the image is laid out on this particular canvas, you'll see that there are margins what are being left out. So on the top, left, right, and bottom, you'll see that left, right, top are having equal values of 0.25, 0.25, but at the bottom it is 0.56. And even if I try to minimize, go to the left, it is not going beyond below certain point. So if you're expecting that these are to be 0, 0, that means whenever the image is going to get printed, so it can be the borderless printing. So many of the printers are not capable of doing a borderless printing. So it may leave some white edges of the paper as a border. Because of that, these values are appearing over here. If your printer is capable of doing the borderless printing, so all will set to 0. The next is about the grid, creating the grid. So you can see how that we can create the grid for the images what we want to print it, since we are going to only have one image per page, so we are not going to change these values. Then again, the cell size, you can see that if you are playing with these sliders, you can increase the size or decrease the size depending on the height and width of what you are willing to have. So we would definitely love to have this full screen where it is utilizing the maximum space of the paper, but at the same time we are not cropping our images. So this size, particularly what we are targeting, is 8 by 10 size print. So once this setting is done, we can move ahead. And one more thing is that if you want to get it the square image, this is how it will readjust the layout. So I'll just uncheck this and keep it as it is, the way we are seeing on the screen. Then fourth is about the guides. So these guides are basically nothing but the usual guides what we have seen in the slideshows or the book module. So we can see the ruler, page bleed. So it will show you if any page bleeding is happening, margins and cutters. So you can see this minute faded gray lines when I'm enabling and disabling this particular option. Image cells, so image cell is this black line what we are seeing. So this is one cell in which the image is basically laid out. And then the dimensions, you can see the dimensions which are getting popped up when this is enabled. When this is disabled, the dimension information is vanished. So this is one of the feature which is available. So this is just for the guideline and not going to get printed on the image when actual print is being taken. So I'll just enable all these guides so that it will help us to lay out the image properly on the canvas. Then the second last option is about the page. So this page is basically is similar to what we have seen in the slide show or the book module. So if you want to have any identity plate, it will we can enable those. So you can go through the book module or the slideshow modules where we have this feature explained. If you want a page color, you can select the page color, what color you want, and at the background this color will appear. So we don't want any of this color, so we are just going to uncheck this. So this identity plate, coming back to identity plate, so suppose if you want to submit the samples to your client or to any of the person who is going to do the proofreading or something like that, and if you don't want these images to get copied or circulated as it is, so it will be a good idea to add the identity plate by some text or something like that, so that it won't be basically copied as it is. So we can again reduce the opacity, scale it, and scale the size or the dimensions of the text. So as of now, we are not going to put any identity plate on this. Then again, the usual setting is the watermark. If you want the watermark to be added, you can just add the watermark on the image. But if you don't want this watermark to appear on the image, you can just simply disable this. Now this watermark and identity mark can serve the similar purpose or the same purpose. Then page options, if you want the page numbers to appear or the photo numbers to appear, you can enable this. Page information, you can add this information at the bottom of the image, that what are the settings which are applied when you did the printing. Crop marks, if any, if you want, you can enable all these features. But again, we don't need this and we are just going to disable this. Then the next option is about the photo information. So the photo information, again, you have various options. If you have any captions assigned, you can print it here. Custom text, if you want, you can assign the custom text whatever you want to assign. So you can just key in your text and you can give the name to the or type in the text whatever is required, then date of the image when it was clicked, or maybe whatever the equipments we have used, maybe the exposure settings, file name, then again the sequence number. So sequence number is that how many images you are going to print and what is the number of that photo which is getting printed, or maybe the title. If you want, you can add the title depending on your requirement. And again, based on your photo information, you can adjust the font size. But as of now, we are not going to use any of this, so we will just leave it as it is. Now, finally, once all these settings are done, we are now going into the last tab, that is the print job. So when you go to this tab, print job, you have one drop down. How would you like to print? Whether you want to send it to the printer or whether you want to send it as a JPEG file. So definitely, since we are already exporting in a different way when we are following the process, we need not to again go as a JPEG file. So printer, we want to send it to the printer. So let's select this printer. Now, this is a draft mode printing. Now, draft mode printing is something like a very quick print, what we want to take it out of the printer without any additional processing parameters which are seen here. So, if you want a quick print, then we just enable this, as it's sort of a draft print which we normally take. So, if we uncheck this, you'll see that rest of the options get enabled. So now when you want to print as a proper print, so you need to do some settings over here. So now it is first is asking as a print resolution. So what should be the resolution? That is a PPI. So this should be nothing less than 240, but good will be the 300. But if you see the resolution, the more you, for example, if I'm just changing the templates over here, and you will see that the DPI is not coming because we are already set here as a size. So otherwise, sometimes Lightroom also starts showing here what is the PPI. So the smaller the size, the PPI will increase. That is the workflow what normally happens. Then if you want to, now suppose the moment I have, you can see that when I'm disabling this print resolution, you'll see that the PPI has come. So it has come to 675 PPI. So I need not to worry about this 300 PPI. Now the thing what I was explaining now you can experience over here. Suppose if I'm making 4 by 6, you can see that the PPI has changed to 1350 PPI. So the more the size is increasing, the PPI is going to reduce. So that is why we need to ensure that it is not falling below 240. And if it starts falling below 240, we need to enable this and we need to set our PPI over here. Then the print sharpening. Probably this might be confusing for many of us, that why this print sharpening is required. Whatever sharpening what we do in the post processing, now this is nothing but we are sharpening the edge of the pixels so that the image appears to be sharp. But when we normally try to take the print, so because of the print characteristics, the way the ink is getting flown on the paper, so depending on the paper characteristics and the printer characteristics, the edges at times may become little bit softer as compared to what we see on the screen. So that is why we need to enable this feature. So if we can keep it low, standard or high. So usually many a times standard works much better. So then the media type we have two options, matte, whether we have a matte type paper or glossy type paper. So matte type paper will, the flow and the spread of the ink will be much more little bit stronger, and it will absorb the ink much more. So that is why the standard or the high is highly recommended when we are using the matte type of paper. Vis-a-vis gloss will have the less spread of the ink and absorption of the ink. So that is why we may go to low at times if at all required. But usually standard works best for both the types of the paper. Then below that we can see the color management. So in color management we can see options like what are the printers are connected to your system. So right now I have only Canon color printer, inkjet printer connected to my system. So we can use either of these options. Suppose if you have any other options or printers connected to your system, they will start appearing over here, and you can select those types of printer depending on your nature of print. So now, for example, if I change it to Canon inkjet color printer, so it will, now you will see that this second line has become active. So whether you want to select perceptual printing or whether you want to select the relative printing. Now, This is more of a technical data or the technical concept related to the printing. What exactly relative means is that uh, whenever we are doing a printing, so what are the pixels which are shown on the image, so it will try to basically the printer will try to use the same pixels and reproduce the colors, brightness and contrast on the print. If you go for the perceptual printing, so some printers at times may not print particular color in a very proper way. So it will try to adjust to the nearby particular color, contrast and brightness, and try to print the pixels on the image. But majority of the times nowadays the technology has developed so much that we hardly get that difference just looking at the picture. So you can try doing it on your own when you print it with the perceptual or whether and when you print with the relative type of setting. So either of this is okay in the current scenario. But if you are using old technology printers, probably this will give you a better understanding because the difference might be very phenomenal at times. So this is about the color management. Usually managed by printer will work best in majority of the situations, because in this case the Lightroom will leave the printing mechanism that the printer will decide. If I'm selecting the printer, so Lightroom will tell the printer that you use this type of color printer profiles to print the image. So that's the difference. Then the next is the print adjustments. So now these print adjustments are something like when this is the main issue is related to the color calibration or the monitor calibration. So if many of us might not be doing the monitor color calibration or the brightness and contrast calibration. In such situations, even though, for example, because if your monitor brightness is high, or monitor contrast is high, but when you actually take a print, your print starts appearing a little bit darker. So in such cases we can adjust the brightness and contrast from through the sliders. So if you feel that your print is little bit darker and less contrasty, you can just adjust the sliders and try to take the print. Now this is more of a trial and error job. So once you understand the characteristics of your printer brightness, contrast and color, with respect to the print, whatever output you are getting, you can now derive to what extent this brightness and contrast needs to be adjusted. So this is about this color management thing. So once all these settings are done, then we are good to go and take our prints. So before we take the print, so we have these two options. One is print and other is printer. So if we click on the printer, it will ask for the printer settings. So we can set the printers, we can set the properties, what type of paper we are going to use. We want to do photo printing, whether we want borderless printing, grayscale printing, color adjustment, we can do the manually over here. And maybe the paper size, then whether we want in a portrait mode or a landscape mode. And once all this setting is done, we can hit OK and proceed for the printing. Or otherwise, we also have one more option directly to go to the print. Now, when we hit the print, it will, you can see that the job is getting transferred to the printer. And once it is done, the window will pop up over here. Now we are not going to print. I have not made the printer on, so we'll just cancel this printing. So this is how quickly we can take the prints from this print module. So once you have finalized all this setting, so what are the print settings you have done, you can even create this saved print. So uh, you can create this print setting and you can set it as a template or the user settings, so that whenever you go for the next prints, you don't have to again and again do this setting job. So this will be one of the good idea to use it as a user specific template, so which will appear over here, and that will save a lot of your time. So you can even create the template by just clicking the plus sign, what I just clicked now. So this is the sign where we click and we can save our template for the printing of our photos. So that's it about how to use the print module. So if you have any questions or doubts, please feel free to ask in the comment box. And thank you so much for watching this video till end. Once again, I would like to make the request that if you have not subscribed the channel, please do subscribe the channel so that whenever the new video is uploaded, you will get the notification and you can enjoy the videos which are being uploaded. So that's all for now. Thank you so much and bye.